Hey, happy Sunday morning. I just wanted to get out a quick economic update on what happened Friday and why we rallied and what to expect this week. There's a lot going on here, and I'm going to try to put it together as quickly as I can. In case you missed it, on Friday, President Trump gave really his best press conference of his administration and demonstrated the steps that the federal government is taking to address the coronavirus outbreak and really attempts to mitigate the impact on the economy. Now, this went extremely well with Dr. Fauci from the CDC and numerous CEOs stepping up to explain the concerted effort. This led to a massive rally in the U.S. stock markets with the S&P up 9.5%. And maybe we should have known something was up, something good was going to happen because they gave the press conference while the markets were still open. Usually you give bad news after they close. So this happened at 2 o'clock Chicago time, 3 o'clock Eastern, an hour before the markets closed. And they saw just this massive rally at the end of the day. Now, last Thursday, I listed 3 things I wanted to see happen to stabilize the outbreak and the markets. And let's quickly review to see what's changed here. Obviously, first was President Trump declaring a national emergency. I wanted to see this happen for a number of reasons, and it did. And this will allow approximately about $42 billion to quickly flow out to the states and cities to help combat the virus and help their healthcare facilities. It cuts through a lot of red tape and just gets it out there quickly. It avoids a lot of regulations. So that's really good news as far as getting money out faster than what we've previously seen. The second thing I was looking for was a drop in the number of infections in the United States. And while we saw a brief drop from Thursday into Friday, the opposite occurred on Saturday. And of course, on Sunday here, we're waiting to see what WHO puts out or Johns Hopkins puts out as far as new infections in the United States. In other words, we're at the beginning of a significant surge in the number of infections announced by the U.S. Now, you're probably asking, why is that going to occur? Well, it's primarily because the U.S. is finally increasing the number of test kits and facilities that can do the testing. And these are the test kits that are provided to hospitals and patients, right? So we're going to get a more accurate feel for what these numbers look like. The U.S. is also working on a plan, and this was talked about during that press conference, with what South Korea is already doing, right? Drive-through testing. Walmart and Target are offering up their parking lots to accomplish this, and that's great news. As well, Google, or a sub of Google, Verily, is working on a test site for San Francisco, I think, or that area, for people to find a testing area. And really, I hope a lot of people can get directed to those specific testing areas. Again, right now, that's just in the beginning beta stages of that process, but this is something that if they get it right, they can roll it out to the rest of the country. Obviously, this is going to help reduce the burden on nearby hospitals. That's really what we're concerned about. As an example of the expected size of the outbreak, New York City hospitals are already preparing tents on hospital grounds for testing and triaging patients. Yes, they expect this to get that bad. Now, the third thing I was looking for was for China's numbers of infections to eventually drop to 0. Now, this is close to happening. I think yesterday they had only 18 infections, right? And this is on top of the 80,000+ people that have already been infected. And I think they've already had 57,000 recover. Now, of course, everybody's going to say, the Chinese are not providing accurate numbers, but, I just take that with a grain of salt. I understand that. But if they really want to get their factories back up and working and staying running, the Chinese have a huge interest in being honest and containing this virus. So maybe they screwed up at the beginning, and maybe we'll never get accurate numbers out of them, or anyone for that matter. But they have a vested interest in making it happen, and that's why I think it will happen. Okay. So where does the economy and markets and virus go from here? That's the question you probably all wanted to know. Well, the U.S. economy is going to take a big hit as businesses and consumers go really shelter in place for the coronavirus. May not seem like that's happening right now, but it's happening. Just as an example, Spain and Italy have already shut down all non-essential retail businesses. Apple and Nike announced they're closing all of their stores for the next 2 weeks. And today, the CDC's Fauci came out and expressed he wants the U.S. to be overly cautious when it comes to the virus and act by following the same path, right? So it wouldn't surprise me if President Trump took those actions. Basically, what Dr. Fauci said is he wants people to hunker down and take this seriously, including everybody between the ages of 1 and 40, which I know no one is. But you ought to be taking it quite seriously because you could be a carrier to other people that can't handle it as well as you can. Now, sadly, in the United States, we just had St. Patrick's Day, and way too many people went out to drink in bars and socialize and have big groups. This likely helps spread more of the disease. And I think we're going to see, really a big push to have the shutdown happen this week as infections spike. Now, that's probably going to make people run out and go to the grocery stores. And I was out at Whole Foods last night, and it's astonishing how bare some of the shelves are. Look, you don't need to get that crazy. And the run on toilet paper is insane as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I understand why people want it, but look, unless you're quarantined, you don't need it. So don't take it. Allow people that need it to get it. If you're okay for now, I think you're going to be okay going forward. There's always people available in your community to help you. Just remember that. I mean, this is a great time for all of us to come together and share our help with others in the community. I don't want people hurting those that need it the most. So let's see if we can come together and do some good things like that. Okay, just to wrap this up on the economy, clearly this is going to have a big short-term negative impact on the economy and businesses, with the exception of grocery stores and pharmacies. Those will stay open to help everyone. So don't think they're going to close. There's not a need to, run out and scare everybody when it comes to this. And also, as I've been saying, we're going to see a spike in the number of infections in the U.S. as more testing gets done. Now, given that we still have some bottlenecks, maybe big bottlenecks, and a shortage of testing kits needed to accurately see how many are infected, you can expect the number of infections to grow rapidly in the United States this week and into next week. Next week being 2 weeks from now, towards the end of March. So I think we haven't seen the peak of infections, and we won't see that until probably late March. And that's why they're talking about shutting down things for 2 weeks. Now, the good news, more help is on the way. And that's what I want to impress upon everyone. They're going to get more testing, and we'll get better at this. But also, speaking of help on the way, and I'm sorry this is running long, but there's a lot to cover here. We have a Federal Reserve meeting this week, and we expect them to announce a resumption of quantitative easing to assist the economy, and of course, continue to make a massive amount of liquidity available to banks. Now, hopefully, this can get out to the businesses, making cheap money available. And I know there's some SBA stuff that's going to get done. I know there's some small business lending that's going to get done, so that's all good. Remember, the stuff that the Fed's doing is not a spend. I know that there's some candidates out there talking about, that you can do, why can't we do a Medicare for All plan if we're going to put out $1.5 trillion from the Federal Reserve? And that's just a really wrong way of looking at this. This is not a fiscal spend, right? This is money injected into the economy, and also it's a way for the Federal Reserve, I'm talking about here, to reduce interest rates. Okay, so keep that in mind and expect the Fed to act on Wednesday. You can also expect a small stimulus plan from Congress with the House already passing a plan. Now, the Senate's not going to act quickly on this, as I doubt they see the merits of the spending, and they'll probably drag their feet if they see the markets recover like it has. So the best I think I can say is that I'd like to see more money dedicated to the healthcare facilities and respirators than I'm bailing out any industry impacted by the virus at this point. We're also seeing states declare emergencies like California, Illinois, and New York, and they're starting to ask the Trump administration to utilize the Army to help. So as a reminder, what we're looking for on the markets is a change to the negative narrative we've been seeing over the last 2 weeks. And we got our first taste on Friday, and we'll really watch to see what happens this week. My guess, at best, we put a temporary floor in the S&P 500 near 2480. So keep that in mind. Now, make no mistake, we're just getting these policy changes implemented, and there's going to be a lot more bad news on the way when it comes to infections. It's going to be another difficult week with a lot of volatility in the financial markets. However, Friday was an important step to change the narrative on the markets and on the economy, and hopefully for consumers as well. All right, I'm Andy Busch. That was a lot to cover. I'm sorry, but it's important to get a lot of this stuff out there. I'm an economist, I'm a market expert, and a keynote speaker. You can get all these videos on my YouTube page, and I'll be posting on my website as well, and I hope to continue to do these going forward.